Assalamu alaikum, my YouTube family. I hope you all are fine and enjoying good health. So welcome back to a very informative and useful session of OLevels English 1123 course code. So you want to get an A star in GCE O-level English, but your writing skills are not very good, right? So even if you are good at writing, you want to see some work of other students to learn something new. So this session is basically for you. Don't worry, I'm here to help you. I'm your host, Walrasha Shahazeb, and I'm back with another new video. And I've been teaching to O-levels students past 5 years from now, and I am having a huge, experience in this field. And with my experience, I'm going to share all the details about this topic, narrative writing. I made all this sequence for you guys, and I'm sure that this is going to be the most useful information for you for the syllabus change now, right? So let's start the video. So the topic which we are going to have today is narrative writing. So I have written that what is narrative writing? Narrative writing, of course, is a form of writing, right, in which there is something which is very important, that is known as a character. Of course, if you have a character and if you keep a character in your mind when you're writing a narrative, then definitely you can ace in your narrative easily. Not only the character, I must repeat this thing, the main character. You have to play the whole narrative through your main character, right? This character then faces a problem, so then there is a problem as well in it. So this character basically faces a problem there. This is the time where the story takes a turn and makes the examiner feel interested in it. If you are going to indulge your examiner in the problem which you are facing, and you are extremely engrossed in writing that, and you have made that problem quite clear to that examiner, and then have started giving the solutions of that problem as well, it means that you are going to write a very structured narrative writing. So here I'm going to write that the problem which is faced by the character basically faces a problem, or maybe an event. It's also, it can be a story of an events as well. In simple words, it actually tells you a story with a proper sequence of events. I must write it is also sequence of events, so it goes all in a chronological order, stepwise, a sequence of events, right? So basically, if you for example, you share your amazing story about your exams, right? So basically, if you do this, you are using characteristics of a narrative. For a narrative, what is the most important thing which we need to focus in our mind? Basically, it is a story. Everybody tells a story, but if you are going to write the story in an interesting manner, then definitely why is not the examiner interested to read your story and give you full marks? It is all how you present your story. Your story should be structured. You're not going to rush towards the words and coming up towards the end of the story and not focusing on the word limit and just wanted to fill up the pages. Please, my dear students, if you really wanted to give your best and 100% and wanted to ace in the exams, then there are thousands of the videos who are telling you that how to write a narrative writing. But here I am motivating you personally that if you really wanted to write a good story, a proper structured story, then you need to invest time in it. For that, you have to practice writing the narratives. As much narratives as you can, you have to practice that. Like almost, I would suggest that give at least 2 to 3 months to write stories on almost every topic. So then pick up the topicals and write almost every topic from your own mind, and then also change the vocabulary words. Okay, I'll tell you in the upcoming detailed video all the things which we are going to do in the video, but stay connected with me till the end of the video if you really want to learn something new today. All right. In simple words, it's basically tells you a story with a proper sequence of events. I have told you this thing, and the main part of the story then is the suspense. Here is the time when if you are suspense, sorry, SE, this is the time when if you are successful in creating the suspense, so it is going to be the main part of the story. Of course, through your character you're going to create the suspense. Now we are going to take a look at the whole detail of it, and that is that you should know that narrative is basically a part of a section 2 in paper 1 of O-levels English. So you have to write between 350 to 500 words, altogether 400 to 500 words, right, for this question. So let's move on to the next thing which I have planned for you is the parts of a narrative. So the parts of the narrative which are very important, first one is the plot. The plot is basically the sequence in which the events happen. So you need to keep up in your mind that how I'm going to give the sequence to this story, right, in a chronological order. How I'm going to put all these things in my story. So just take almost like 5 to 7 minutes from your time, because you have to manage the time as well, and then make a plot in your mind. That how I'm going to structure my story, how I'm going to give the sequence of it. And then comes your characters. They perform actions and speak dialogues. Of course, your characters should be strong enough. They should be performing every action which you are putting about the character should be notified, and you are which you are putting it should not be a low level action which the character is performing. It should be a solid action which the character is performing, through which the story keep on taking the turns and twists, right? And the dialogue delivery which the character is uttering, basically that should be very solid and written in an impressive manner, I must say. Here you need a jam-packed vocabulary. Then comes your conflict. As I told you, the conflict, or else in other words you will be saying it as suspense. If you're going to create this suspense, if you're going to create the conflict, then it will be adding the spice in your story. Of course, जिंदगी में अगर suspense नहीं है, कोई twist नहीं है, कोई conflict नहीं है, तो मजा ही नहीं है. How is that character, how we as a character going to deal with the whole life without any suspense or without any conflict, right? So to make the story interesting, you need to put up a conflict, you need to add the suspense, and that suspense should make the examiner think, ponder upon that how is this suspense going to end. So this is basically when your main character faces some problems, then don't mix the whole problem. Just state one problem and then the other, and then start giving the solutions of those problems, right? So, or else if you are stating just one difficult arduous kind of problem of the character, then that should be one, and give the solution right away, right? And this way you can enhance your writing of course limits as well. Now comes this fourth part, and the fourth part of the narrative is the setting, the location or time in your narrative. When following the location or time, it is the daytime, night time, evening time, and where that story takes place. Okay, the main thing is where, which is that place. So you need to think about if it's a school, if it's at home, if it's any place, if it's outside. So your whole characters should be performing accordingly, right? So you need to be very sensible at this point, that your characters should not be performing a change to the thing which the location is mentioned, right? Okay, I told you, just like a cake has some layers, so narrative has also some parts. But why you should know them, this is something very important, because students are only focused about writing a narrative, creating a story. They don't know what we need to focus. So these are the 4 things which you need to write on your registers before writing a story, or on your paper, that what is my plot, which characters I am adding, what is going to be the conflict or a suspense in my story, then where the setting will be. Okay, so these are the 4 things which you abruptly have to make when you are starting your narrative writing, right? Okay, now because it is very simple, if you do not know about the parts of a narrative, you will not be able to write a good story. So repeating it once again, that plot is let me just tell you here by writing in detail. So that's why I'm making the detailed video, so as to make you notify that please watch it till the end. You will get lots of information. The plot, in creative writing, it is the sequence in which events happen. A sequence us what a plot is. And the plot is all about the story and how your events progress, but it is not only how events are taking place in your story. So what do I mean by that? Let me tell you. A good plot shows how the character gets into the conflict, right? So if you are actually making a good plot, then simply your character has to get into trouble and then he has to work out a solution to deal with the problem. Then this creates a, a good plot creates further two things, suspense and a drama. So that is one of the most important parts of creative writing, especially in narrative. This is because you have to remember that without suspense, no one will read your story. I repeat, without the conflict or suspense, no one will read your story. To summarize, a good plot looks like something like this. Now, number one, the main character faces a conflict and a problem. Remember these points. The main character faces a conflict or problem, and then second thing is that things go right, everything gets normal. This is, I'm talking about this story, that how it goes about and how a good plot looks like. So it's everything, goes normal. Then comes, the third thing, where actually the story, takes a twist, that things go wrong. Things go wrong abruptly, suddenly. Things go wrong. Problem arise. That creates suspense actually. This is the point where you have to create a suspense for the examiner and just indulge your examiner in your narrative. And then the fourth thing is, finally you have to wrap up how your character deals with the problem. Finally wrap up how that main character deals with the problem. So promise me, my dear students, that if you're going to write the narratives from now onwards, you need to follow all these things when you are creating a good plot. Okay, so moving on, let's talk about the characters now. I have made here actually the types of the characters which I'm going to show you. For me, characters are the most important part because why? Tell you. Characters are what your readers remember, because when we watch the movie, we only remember the characters. That in Shah Rukh Khan movie, Shah Rukh Khan acted so good. He was, doing such good actions, So we remember the characters. So the readers remember the characters. So the examiner will also, he's also a human being. He will only remember your character. So for example, if there is a hero or a villain that you will remember after reading a story, therefore they play a very crucial part in your, narrative writing. So simply, characters are those people in your writing that perform actions and speak dialogues. They play their part in the story to develop the plot, right? So here I am presenting you the major characters and minor characters. You better know about this thing. This is for all my students, that you know that. Character development is the key. If you want to write a good narrative, you have to show your characters change during the story and what part they play. There are different kinds of character, right? For example, I'm going to show you. There are protagonist, the main character of the story, the hero. Protagonist, the main character of the story, right? Here we are writing about the protagonist, the main character of the story, and the most important one as well, I must say. And then comes the second one. It's antagonist. Antagonist, of course, it's the opposite of it, the villain of the story, who actually creates the suspense or creates problems. So he is the villain of the story. Remember, you need to add as much characters like protagonist, antagonist, and you have to add these kind of characters to make your narrative interesting. The opponent of the protagonist is the antagonists. Then comes the third one. The third one is the territory characters. So who are the territory characters? You can also mention in the comment section below while watching my videos, and keep commenting me down below, so then I can stay connected with you guys as much as possible, and I'll be keep making useful content for you guys in in the longer run. I'll take out time, inshallah. I'll keep on making. So let's just move on to the territory characters. Territory characters are the minor characters in the story that may or may not be able to link to the storyline, but they show their presence. So these are the minor characters, I must say, which we sometimes need to complete the story. However, the territory characters serve different functions and objectives, so you can use these characters to your benefit by developing your sequence of events, like the plot. Okay, then comes the conflict, the suspense, basically the next page. Let's move on to it. So this conflict or suspense, I must say, I'm gonna just change my pen for the suspense. So this this is the part of the story when your main character faces problem. When your main character faces problems. I made it bigger and huge because this conflict is extremely important. Add the suspense in your story, otherwise your story won't stand out. This part is what you can call suspense or drama as well. Here you have to make sure that tension builds that keeps your readers engaged, right? What do I mean by that? Simply, let's suppose that your character is being accused, blamed for a crime that he has not committed. This is the conflict that your character will resolve. So the conflict allows your story to continue. Your conflict allows your story to continue. If there is conflict in your life, you will be keep on busy in solving that conflict, and your life continues. This is what actually life is. So remember, the better the conflict, the better the story. I'm going to write it here. The better the conflict, I made the pen so big, the better the story. But I need to highlight it for my students, because the students don't focus on creating this suspense. They just create the very little amount of suspense, short amount of suspense, and then they just tries to end up their story because they get bored of writing. Yes, this was the review of my students. I've heard about it. So then comes the setting. A backdrop or setting refers to the location or time in the narrative. It can be fictional or non-fictional depending on your. So moving on, let me just share the sample of narrative regarding this. Then you will be able to clear this thing more. So the sample question paper for the narrative writing is this. This, that we have to write almost about 350 to 450 words, and in the narrative writing is the section B, paper 2, section B, composition. Under the composition, you just have to do one. So I would suggest you to just pick up the narrative writing, because in descriptive writing you need to describe things with jam-packed adjectives and full of description. I will also make the video on that too. It's not even difficult. Some students are good at descriptive writing, but those who are the good story makers and those who knows how to create a suspense in the story and how to solve that, then definitely narrative is the thing for you. Past paper of 2023, and in this the students got these two topics of the narrative. Write a story in which something unexpected happens at an important school event. So here we got the location, the you can say place, the setting of the story. Here we automatically got it from the question. And story with something unexpected happens. So they told that unexpected happens. Unexpected creates a good plot. It can create a very good plot where you have to create something extremely unexpected by adding up the suspense. It could be scary, horror. It could be strange, unusual activity. It could be any paranormal activity. It could be anything which you can create, and then you can make your narrative extremely impressive. I'm going to show you a sample narrative as well of one of my students who have actually ace in the paper, so you can see that. and then you will be able to see the strengths of that response as well. And write a story that includes the sentence, when I saw the photograph, the memories came rushing back. So this is something, a very nice, friendly kind of narrative in which we have, lots of information, lots of stuff which we can write and memorize about the memorable days of our life. You can go in detail into it, right? So now comes the sample of the narrative writing, and it is of 25 marks. So my dear students, if it is of 25 marks, and if you really wanted to gain marks, so then keep this in your mind that 10 marks are available for the content and structure. So you need to add a valid content, and structure should be perfect enough according to the tenses, your sentence structure, each and everything should be perfect, right? Because you're doing O levels, okay? So you're not in grade 4, 5 or 6, and you have to answer up the rest of the 15 marks for the style and accuracy. Your style should be extremely impressive. Your style should be adding up the jam-packed vocabulary. Your style should be also formal, and somewhere it is giving the lighter touch as well, cracking a joke or giving a pun upon the words, things like that. And then accuracy, of course, at this level, if you are not providing them the accuracy, how can you ace in the O levels exams, right? So then comes the sample of the narrative writing. Here I am attaching the sample, and I would want you to just go through it, give a reading to it. And I have already told you that the marks division are 10 and then 15 for style accuracy, and the content and word limit is, you already know that the word limit which we need is 350 to 450 words. So better not to go below 400 words. Not to go below 400 words. 400 words are must to write. Almost 3 pages, right? So write a story in which you disobeyed an order. This was the question in one of the narrative writing. So in this, the student has somewhere used the punctuation marks in such a good way, and the student has also write in detail everything. The hook, the beginning line was extremely good. Okay, let's give a reading. The camp had never been as crowded as it was on that day, which dawned crisp and clear. I had never witnessed so much chaos that erupted due to the convocation of the arriving troops. Oh my God, look at the vocabulary. Chaos, erupted, crisp and clear. So how are you going to enhance your vocabulary level? How will you enhance your vocabulary level? Can you please mention in the comment section below that how are you going to enhance your vocabulary level? The tip I'm going to give you is that you have to read extensively. Extensive reading can save you before exams for the narrative writing. And once you are reading any part of any piece of writing, you have to underline those words and also write the meanings of them, and then also use those words in your narrative writings, when you are practicing your writing style. And I'm going to definitely make another video on the vocabulary which we can use probably in all the narratives. I'm going to make it, but you need to mention in the comment section below that if you really wanted video or not. Okay, so now this was because our village was under attack by a rival party, and our soldiers were called. Instead of this old outdated word called, they used summoned to prevent, stop further loss of lives. This was the only thing that we could do at the moment. Abide by the orders given to. Abide by, we have seen a lot of time this word, but we never use it. Why would we? Why we have to make our narrative good? Come on, you need to upgrade your vocabulary level. Ryan, or leader. Now here look, Ryan, commas, or leader, comma, was a tall, dark man who possessed fierce looks. Now talking about, when we are describing somebody as in a person, we are describing that person. So the examiner who is reading our piece of writing can get a clear picture about the character. Okay, who was that character? How he looks like, in appearance, as in appearance, and how he performs. So then the examiner creates a, impact about that character in the mind. So you can definitely give a reading to this, and you can get, I'm just scrolling down to it. You can stop my video, pause it, give a reading to it, and get a clear view of the best narrative writing. This was actually the narrative writing. And now the strengths of the response. I'm going to share with you the strengths of the response, and that is that the thing over here is that good vocabulary is important to score, the description, the characters, language and relevance is important. These are the four things which are extremely important, but the main thing is that you need to add a good vocabulary. However, do not add the stuff in the fancy words you have learned just to make your story looks good. This will do more harm than good, because don't write fancy words. Don't full your narrative writing with full of fancy words, but also give some time to the reader to add some simple words as well. But the vocabulary should not be repeated twice. Okay, the vocabulary should not be, the words should not be repeated. Avoid repetition. Here I'm going to give you a bonus tip: avoid repetition. So repetition is the main thing where the examiner gets offensive. So the bonus tip is that if you want to use good vocabulary and make it look natural, here is what you can do. Find out the words you want to use, learn about their meanings and read sentences around those words. Then gradually use them in your writing. Okay, please start making your vocabulary journal from today onwards, and start using those words in your piece of writing. Okay, so this is the way you're going to ace in your narrative writing, right? Must add the element of suspense. Element of suspense is must. I'm repeating it once again. Element of suspense is must. And keep your reader engaged. Keep your reader's attention engaged till the end of the video. You are going to get lots of tips and tricks, and keep your reader engaged till the end of the story as well. And here in the previous story which I showed you, the sample question, sample narrative, you have seen that the candidate uses a cliffhanger technique at the end of the narrative. So for you, a cliffhanger is a technique that creates suspense, which sometimes the students create suspense at the end of the story. That is known as a cliffhanger. So please add a cliffhanger. You can also add the suspense at the end of the story. What happens is that the writer leaves some questions unanswered for the readers. So that is where the examiner will, you will let the examiner think upon it. So but note that do not leave your story incomplete. There should be questions which are given the answers of as well in the story, but do not leave your story incomplete. Okay, this technique does not say at all that you have to leave your story incomplete. Never leave your story incomplete, I must say. Story incomplete, because this is the only question you have to attempt of 25 marks. So why would you leave your story incomplete? Of course, a story without good characters is also not a good story. So of course characters are also very important. Here I am giving you the overview of all the things which we have discussed. So there is some description about the characters and their roles in that story, about Ryan, or leader, who was a tall dark man who possessed fierce looks. So the story has a major as well as minor characters as well. And do not use dialogues in excess. Must use dialogues, but in some limit. When you will cross the limit for everything, then definitely you will be able to lose the marks at that point. Okay, so these are all the things which I have discussed with you, and these are the things which are very, very important to write a good narrative. If you're going to follow them, you will definitely be able to write a perfect narrative. You guys can also write your narrative writings and email me, and I'm going to mention the email, and at the end of the video I'm going to check your narratives, and I'll be definitely giving you the marks. If I'll get the time, of course I'll be doing it. And here our topic about the narrative writing has come to an end. Thank you very much for staying connected with me and till the end of the video. And I have discussed all the parts of the narrative along with the sample narrative writing as well. I have discussed and showed you the sample question paper, and I have discussed the strengths of that response as well, and what are the important things you got to know. Now I turn it over to you guys, that you have to practice as much as you can. So you have to tell me in the comment section below that which part of a narrative you think matters the most. Which part of the narrative you think that matters the most? Is it the conflict, setting, or the plot? I will definitely be appreciating your thoughts on this topic, but must mention comment section. Stay tuned for more useful content, and thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe and share. Stay connected. Allah Hafiz.